Who's going next?
I think it's me, Joseph, and the Technicolor Dreamcoat.
That's good.
I've been waiting to get that one.
Oh, that's very good.
OK, you can imagine my joy this week when finally the guys at the Bank of England finally admitted what we've all known for many, many years, which was that mass migration, uncontrolled mass migration, the figures in the UK in 2022, for example, 730,000, is fueling our housing crisis. Who'd have thought? It doesn't take a genius to work it out. A report also showed that 89% of our recent increase in the housing waiting list, I think it's like 1.5 million, comes from new migrants who have just entered the country in recent years. So, Albie, why is it a surprise to people at the Bank of England who are meant to be, you know, clued up and experts at all this kind of thing? Why have they only just realised now and admitted that it's our mass uncontrolled migration that's causing our housing crisis?
I think it's probably something people have been saying for a long time, maybe within different institutions, but they've not actually publicly wanted to go out and say it.
Cowards.
Because it's felt... It almost feels like a taboo subject, or it has felt like a taboo subject to talk about immigration. Quite often you get people saying that it was a racist topic to talk about wanting less migration. Now, you would get other people, for example, there's a chap called Harrison from the IEA who is very pro-immigration and pro-house building. And the Institute for Economic Affairs, for those of you that don't know, wonderful institution. And he would argue that actually the reason why we haven't been able to build enough houses to keep up with the demand of new migrants coming to the country is because of our very burdensome planning regulations. So I think there's two parts of this. Immigration is too high and our planning regulations are too restrictive, which means we can never build houses in line with demand.
I get that, and I agree. We're not doing enough to build houses. So knowing that fact, knowing we're not building enough schools, houses, there isn't enough doctors and hospital spaces.
Prison places.
Prison places. Why are we then allowing so many people to come in?
It was a very bad idea.
And also, by the way, Nikki, your ilk, the left, Gen Zers particularly, they make me laugh, they make me howl, because one day they're sitting there saying, I can't get a flat, the rents are out of control, I can't buy a house, I can't start a family because I haven't got a house. And the next day they're all campaigning for open borders, and they just don't seem to get it in their heads that one equals the other.
Well, no, because the majority of migrants end up in rented accommodation, a very poor quality accommodation. They're not taking the nice houses that, you know, people buy to get on the housing ladder.
They are.
Not the majority of them, not the majority.
You should see some of the accommodation they're given. They're given new build developments.
But that's different. I'm not talking about social housing. I'm talking about the houses that people want to buy, right? The desirable houses, you know, a price point that people can afford to actually purchase. I mean, I think what's important to consider is that you said cause, I think, but actually they said fuel. So there's a bit of a difference between migrants adding to the problem and migrants starting the problem.
Well, that's my point to Albie. We know there's a problem because we're not building enough houses. Fine, that's one issue. So then why would you keep allowing people to come in? A city the size of Birmingham every 2 years, where's the sense?
Well, because the issue is what we should be allowing people to do is to work and to pay taxes and to feed into the economy, and then we will be able to afford to build more social housing.
But the problem is,
and help people get on the housing ladder themselves.
They're not working.
Yeah, but that's our system that's broken. That's our system that's broken. We should let migrants work. I believe that we should let migrants in this country work.
They don't want to work. They're all claiming benefits.
What a load of rubbish. I bet
you're talking about small boat migrants here.
Well,
as illegal migrants to work.
I'm talking about
but of course there are the economic migrants that come over on work visas. Of course they work.
We know, Darren. We know that the myth that migrants fuel the economy is exactly that. It's a myth. The latest GDP figures, before the ones that were released this week, showed that GDP per capita, which is the truest form of a person's quality of life in the UK, contracted by 0.7%.
Yeah, that's right.
Despite immigration figures skyrocketing.
In the report you mentioned by Robert Jenrick, it also points out that the kind of migration that's coming here now is entirely unproductive compared to the population already here. So that would suggest that we are there for...
What's quite interesting about that, though, Darren, as a Brexiteer, I wonder what your view would be on this, is that the immigration that we've had since Brexit has been mostly from non-European countries, and the migrants, on average, are less productive. But when we were in the European Union and people were coming from Europe because of free movement of people, the migrants were very productive. So how do you feel having supported a movement which has cause the problems with migration that we have today?
Look, I don't think Brexit has caused that. I think politicians have allowed that to happen. We need to build new homes every 5 minutes, night and day, in order to keep up with the demand that's already needed. Never mind bringing more people into the country, because it's going to be a crisis that we never solve in Britain.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's Brexit's fault. I think it's the politicians who we gave the power and control to, who have said, all right, Australian points-based system, which apparently means every bugger gets to come.
Yeah,
But it's also issues. It's also issues like expats buying houses. It's people buying houses in small communities where locals should be able to have them, like Cornwall, for example. People just being priced out of their homes, and it's things like the green belt. There's a lot of very rich people sitting on a lot of land in this country they give no access to it to anyone else.
I voted Greens in the locals because they're pledging to stop a really horrible Toy Town development.
You voted for the Green Party.
But can we just pick up on this Brexit point really quickly?
That's right there for you.
He has just voted for a party. The nasty party of Britain. That's what they are.
Look, on the Brexit point, by the way, I think British people are also forward-looking. We know there's going to be an amnesty for all these hundreds of thousands of migrants crossing over to Europe. We know there's going to be an amnesty, so those people will get European citizenships, and then they will still come to Britain anyway. It's still more difficult for them to do that today. On the second point, on house builders, a lot of these big house building corporations actually have plots and plots of land across this country which they are refusing to build on. And why are they doing it? Because they're pushing up the values of the properties and these big buildings that they're creating. So there needs to be massive planning reform from the government. The Tories really should be getting on top of this.
And to answer your question or a point, Nikki,
very briefly,
do you know why people reject NIMBYs that exist?
Yeah.
Because the Toy Town estates that they build, these horrible new build estates, every house looks the same, it's vile.
People have got to live somewhere.
So what? People have got to live somewhere. We've got a crisis in our hands. You can't make a decision about what brickwork you want to look at in the morning over the road.
Characterful homes.
All right, okie doke.